Hey guys, welcome back to AmSamFam. If this is your first time with us, make sure to subscribe so you can catch all of our adventures and hear all of our fun life stories about our time here in American Samoa. So the video today is a little bit different, and we based it on quite a few conversations that we've had with family back in the mainland United States and people that we know in different parts of the world that have told us we love American Samoa, we would thrive there, that is the kind of place for us, and we obviously identify with that, and so that's always easy to hear. But then there's the other side of the coin, and we hear people sometimes say things that it baffles us when they say things like, well, I could just never live in a place that doesn't have seasons, or people are like, I gotta have my snow.
Gotta have
you
snow?
gotta have snow? Like, I could live my entire life and not see snow. So it occurred to us, and we started looking around at life here in American Samoa and realizing there's a lot of aspects of life here that there's no middle ground on. You either love it or you hate it. And we collected the top 10 of those things that we could identify, and we want to share those with you today. So without further ado, let's jump right into it.
The number 10 thing on our list of reasons why you will either love or hate American Samoa is the humidity. For those who will love the humidity, it's because of the things it does to your skin and your hair. It's because of the fact that it makes our island so green and beautiful and lush.
Now, not everybody likes humidity. A good example is our son Holden, who really adapted well to island life, but he will never ever really be a humid climate person. The poor kid just breaks out in like rashes when it gets kind of hot and humid, and just isn't really made for a humid climate. So he struggles a little bit, and we've met a lot of people that are like him too. Not everybody loves what the humidity does to their hair. Some people, it gets really nice and wavy. I guess that's kind of more like us. Other people, they just get frizzy. The truth of the matter is, the humidity may not be for everybody. So the number 9 item on our list of things that you'll either love or hate about American Samoa is the fact that there are no seasons here at all. We live right on the equator, which means the variation in temperature from the hottest time of the year to the coldest time of the year is maybe 10 degrees tops.
There are those of us who just don't like winter.
Yeah.
We don't like being cold. We don't like Jack Frost nipping at our nose. We just love being warm all year round. And because it's warm year round, our wardrobe is very simple. We don't have to have 4 different seasons of outfits and shoes that we used to have when we lived on the mainland.
Let's face it, the term endless summer was created because there is a need in some people to not have to ever get to the end of the summertime and start bundling up again. They just want to keep on going, living in the sunshine and the warmth their entire life. That's like us, that's who we are. But not everybody's like that. There are some people out there that would hate not having the seasons here, that live for the first snow of the year. And that's not gonna ever happen here. You're never gonna get that first snow. They live to see the leaves change colors and start falling, and to be able to get that first chilly night where you can wrap up in a sweater. Probably aren't gonna ever wear a sweater unless you work in a really cold, overly air-conditioned office building. But if you love that cold, if you are a diehard skier, then you know American Samoa is not going to be the place that you're going to want to live. Still
Visit,
great
hopefully.
place for a visit. Yeah.
Our number 8 thing you will either love or hate about American Samoa, which is the animal life. For people who will love that about American Samoa, it's because we are blessed to not have venomous or poisonous spiders and snakes, nothing life-threatening that way. We don't have predators, bears, coyotes. What we do have are flying foxes, which are the only native mammal here on the island. Flying foxes are a type of fruit bat, so even the fruit bats, they get so big, which is really cool to see. And they're fruit bats, so you don't have to worry about them. There's nothing scary about them.
If you are an animal lover, you're going to also love things like the fact that this is probably the freest place in the world to be a dog. I have never seen a dog like on a leash. I've never seen a dog stuck in a backyard where that's its only place. I mean, dogs kind of roam wild here, which I think you'll understand how that's going to end up kind of being one of the negatives here in a minute. But from, again, going back to our son Holden, he's such an animal lover. The boy just like feels so sad whenever an animal is not living its happiest life, and he's so happy to see dogs that get to go run free here. But that does segue into what you might hate about American Samoa when it comes to the animal life here, which is really, honestly, truly, the dogs are probably the absolute worst part, is that the dogs run free. You can never really truly go out for a walk without maybe bringing a stick or feeling a little uncomfortable or having to be prepared to fight off a dog that's trying to protect its territory that you may be getting a little bit too close to.
We've had a few instances where some of us in our family have gotten some little bites, so that could cause some real anxiety for some people.
I think the national bird of American Samoa is the mosquito, because there's just a lot of mosquitoes, and it never gets cold enough to kill them off. There's a lot of beetles. I think everybody has ants in their house. There are huntsman spiders, and if you don't know what that is, look it up on Google, because it's the scariest thing that I do have a particularly bad phobia of spiders, and so it's probably worse for me than most people, but I'm talking about a spider with their legs and everything. Like, they can get this big around without any problem. They're huge and they're scary, but they're not particularly venomous.
I was talking to my sibling the other day and telling them we have geckos living in our house, which we appreciate because they eat those creepy crawlies. But my sibling was saying that they would never ever want to live in a place where geckos just lived in their house. And I hadn't even considered that somebody might not want geckos in their house.
So the 7th item on our list of things that you'll either love or hate about American Samoa is the food. Here's what you're gonna love about the food.
You can easily find very traditional foods anywhere around the island. You'll find the produce stands along the side of the road with taro and breadfruit. Year-round you can find bananas, papaya. In the right times of the year, you can find so many of the regional fruits that we didn't have at least easy access to, or any access to, when we lived on the mainland. Things like pineapple and passion fruit and mangoes, guavas,
soursop.
Yeah.
So it all sounds great with the foods. I mean, what could there be about food that anybody would not like about American Samoa? Well, let's throw out a couple of our observations about the food here in the territory too that might turn some people off. And the first one I want to lead with is really a cultural thing, which is interesting. I never really understood, is a real preference for sweet over savory here in the territory. Not meaning that there aren't savory dishes here, but there's always more sweet than you would expect. That comes through in things like pizzas that have really sweet crust or sauce in them that took us a little while to get used to.
Even some of those more traditional foods like the palusami, the talosaka, they use coconut cream, fresh coconut cream, which has a natural sweetness to it. So it's not always added sugar, but I think it's just kind of that traditional use of coconut cream that has given the taste for sweetness in the savory dishes.
I think something else that a lot of real foodie people out there might hate about American Samoa is a general lack of options here. And I'm not going to say that there are no options here. I think anybody visiting the territory could go around and find enough variety to be happy for a week or two. But you run out of options pretty quickly here. And it's a function of the fact that it's just a small area geographically. And it's a fairly small population of only between 50 and 60,000 people that live here, which means it can only support so many restaurants. If you are the sort of person that has to have really good, easy access to world-class Italian food, and then tomorrow you want to be able to go get world-class sushi, I mean, that variety isn't here. You're really going to be stuck with sort of the options on island, which are all delicious.
Yeah.
And they're all great options. Again, for us, that's not that big of an issue. We're not real foodie people. We appreciate good food, and it's been fun for us to get off island every once in a while and go have some really good, different food.
The 6th thing that you will either love or hate about American Samoa is how strong of a presence religion is here on the island.
If you are a practicing Christian, you're going to come here and you're going to find maybe not your exact denomination, but you're going to find a very similar denomination, has beliefs that align with yours and customs and practices that probably align with how you're living your life, and you might really love that.
When we first came, we found basically an instant community, instant family through going to a church that we go to every Sunday, and they were so welcoming and we fit right in. For those who may hate this, it is basically the opposite. If you don't have strong religious convictions, or if maybe you're not Christian and you have other religious convictions, where we had an instant community through going to church, if you don't go to church, it might be harder to find your community and be able to connect around something other than religion.
Now, those communities definitely exist here. You can find them, but they're not as obvious and not as easy to tap into as showing up at church one Sunday afternoon. A lot of the beliefs are practiced through public customs that are kind of forced on people in a way. And that sounds bad, but the truth of the matter is that there's not a great separation between church and state here in the territory. So there is a time every day around 6 o'clock or so called SAW, and it's really a religious-based practice about going in and praying with your family. If you don't practice religion, if you don't believe that, that doesn't really matter. If you're walking through one of these villages, they're gonna make you sit down and they're gonna make you stay quiet and not do anything until SAW is over. And on Sundays, there are gonna be a lot of beaches that you're not gonna be able to go and swim at, or a lot of hiking trails that you may not be able to hike because you can't park at somebody's house because they said, no, there's none of this on Sundays. It's the Sabbath. You can't go anywhere or do anything on that.
Now, we covered a lot of this in our video that we made a few months back about Sundays here in American Samoa that you can check out.
Now, the fifth item on our list of things that you'll either love or hate about American Samoa, and oh, you will either love or hate this, is this speed limit. My goodness, this was hard for me to get used to, and I hated it at first, almost to the point of it being a deal breaker. The speed limit in American Samoa, and all of American Samoa, is never higher than 25 miles an hour. 25 miles per hour. So if you are a Sunday driver by nature, if you were born to drive a big old Cadillac at 15 miles an hour down the freeway, and you don't care when everybody behind you is honking because they want to get where they're going, well, then you're going to love this place. But to be fair, and joking aside, there are a lot of people here that don't care that it's that slow. They really appreciate that aspect of island life, and that really is integrated into island life here, is that you're not in a rush in American Samoa. These are the islands.
This is the place to go slow.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's safe. I mean, you also see a lot of kids riding in the back of pickup trucks and, you know, without seatbelts in cars, and it's just the norm here. But it's also a lot safer because you're only going 25 miles an hour. And I should specify that really is the very top. Chances are you're more likely going to be doing 15 to 20 miles an hour. In our road, in our community here that we live, is only 5 miles per hour. And it's pretty strictly observed, because if you don't observe it, then sometimes people will throw coconuts at your cars. But I will say, as somebody who was an addict to speed before we came here, it was really hard for me to get used to, but I have fully integrated, and I notice sometimes as I'm driving in a 25 mile an hour zone at a comfortable speed where I'm not thinking about trying to, you know, maintain the speed below 25, that I am all of a sudden only doing 20 miles an hour and there's a couple cars behind me.
It's true.
I can't believe it. I can't believe that I'm actually going that slow and I'm okay with it. So it's something that comes on, and as you really integrate into the island and you start understanding the pace of the island, you'll end up loving the 25 mile an hour speed.
Or you won't. And some people might just never adapt to that and just feel restricted by that speed limit the whole time they're here. Now, I still, well, every once in a while look down, and I'm not admitting to anything here. But I'll see my needle pushing the 25 mile per hour speed limit from time to time. That's all I'm going to say about me. But for some people, Just the flow of traffic here will feel frustrating. To go along with the 25-mile speed limit, there is also this understood tradition of stopping and letting 10 cars into the road instead of just letting them merge in with natural traffic flows. You'll come across somebody parked in the middle of the road just chatting with somebody on the sidewalk, and you're wondering, why aren't we moving?
That could be an absolute deal breaker for you if you're thinking of coming here. And if you have road rage, this is not the place for you to be. Or maybe it's a perfect place for you to learn the patience on the road.
It's taught somebody a lot of patience. Number 4 on our list of things you will either love or hate about American Samoa is the beaches. Now that might be surprising because who hates a beach? But we'll get to that. First, those who love the beaches will love them because you will never find a crowded beach. Not here in American Samoa.
I can't imagine anywhere else in the world that has beaches that are at the level that these beaches are here. These pristine, white, beautiful coral sand beaches where you can have this whole beach to yourself with coconuts right there that you can open up and drink fresh coconut water while you're laying on this world-class beach soaking in the sun, and you're not having to rub elbows with anybody. You're not walking around people sunbathing. You're not dodging frisbees that are coming at you. None of those things. You're just not going to find those kinds of crowds, and that's unique, and that is enough for some people to just quit their jobs, pack up a suitcase, and move here just knowing that they're going to have that kind of a natural resource available to them so exclusively.
We also have beaches that, because we don't have hordes of tourists coming, taking over the beaches, you walk along the sand and you find seashells and sea glass. You come across natural tide pools with, little bits of sea life in there, and it really rounds out your beach day.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to our beaches here in American Samoa. There's a few things that some people out there will hate about our beaches, just to be very, very frank. Maybe one of the top things that those that hate the beaches in American Samoa really, really despise about the beaches is that they are coral sand beaches. These islands are volcanic islands, so already there's just volcanic rock everywhere. The islands are completely surrounded by this razor sharp coral. It breaks off, it washes up. If you're running and playing on a beach, you have a reasonably good chance of cutting your foot.
The other thing, we've covered this before in our 10 things we wish we had known before moving to American Samoa, is we do have a trash problem here. So when you find these beautiful pristine beaches that you've got all to yourself, we've shown quite a few of those beaches, and what we don't show you in those videos is the trash that has collected up onto the beach. Some of it which is washing in from the ocean, and some of it is left there by locals.
I mean, you go to any given beach, you can see the exact spot on the beach where some of the local men have just, the night before, they pulled out a 24-pack of beer, they drank it, and then just crushed the bottles right there on the rocks next to them on the beach, which is really disheartening when you see that. Mm-hmm. We've tried to make it a point of practice that when we go to a beach, we ask permission to use the beach, we go enjoy it for the day, and either before we start playing for the day or before we leave for the day, we'll at least go and try to pick up one trash bag full of trash to take it with us. In the end, it doesn't ruin our day. We see some of that, we try to make it better, and we still see the beauty of the beaches over the trash. And I don't want to make it sound like every beach here is like a landfill, because it's not nearly that bad. No. It's just, there's just enough trash there that it's still a little bit sad and disheartening.
Yeah, and definitely some beaches are worse than others too.
The third item on our list of things that you'll either love or hate about American Samoa are the hiking trails.
We take the kids up hiking in the mountains, and we are 95% of the time there all by ourselves. We're not running into anybody. We don't have to share the trail, especially right now during COVID times. 6-foot distance is not a thing here because we've got the whole trail, the whole mountain to ourselves.
And one of the blessings and maybe one of the curses of living on a small island, though, is also you don't have to drive 100 miles to get to some really world-class, beautiful trails either. 10 miles tops is how far you have to drive to get to a great trailhead to be able to hike this, amazing tropical jungle trail.
And one thing that I love, and not everybody will, is that these trails are very natural still too. The ones in the national park are definitely maintained. Our national park service does a great job here maintaining the trails, but they're still very natural in that sometimes you go and it is a little overgrown, but you get the whole experience of the flowers and the foliage and the birds overhead, coconuts maybe in your trail, but it's all part of the experience that I really love about taking the kids hiking up there. Now, some people might not like that. They might hate that they are not super well manicured. We've been to other national parks and state parks on the mainland where these trails are very, what I would call, manicured. Some people really, I'm sure, really appreciate that. It's an easier hike. You don't have roots that you're tripping on. But here, you're going to run into roots in the trail. You're going to run into, maybe the grass is overgrown a little bit.
Some boggy areas.
Mm-hmm.
Some puddles.
Well, Hadley and I recently went and hiked the trail to Outweighs, which is not in the national park. It is a very traditional trail of what the people used to use to come from the village on the north side up over the mountain. And that trail was not well marked. If we hadn't been with a group, we would have gotten lost 10 times over. So I loved the challenge of it, but not everybody is going to love that. And in fact, there are people who are going to hate the idea. There are no facilities at these, even in the national parks. At the trailheads, you don't have bathrooms available to you. So that is something to consider and something that some people will really not appreciate.
The second to last item on our list of things that you'll either love or hate about American Samoa is the total lack of tourism infrastructure here on the island. This almost exclusively sounds like a bad thing, that there's not the infrastructure to support tourism or anything like tourism here in the territory. But let me tell you why this is actually a great thing. Because you are not going to come here and feel like you're just in Waikiki, or that you've come to Bora Bora, or someplace that has been meticulously designed to appeal to tourists' idea of what Polynesia is going to look like. You're going to come here and you're going to get the real sense of what true Polynesia is by coming to American Samoa. So there are things like the trails that are a little bit rough, but they are the way that they've been for a couple thousand years, quite honestly. The food may not be as exotic and as exciting as what you might expect, but it's real authentic food. What you're getting here is truly the local food that the real Polynesian people eat. And so if you're the kind of person that doesn't like to be a tourist, but you love to visit and really experience a culture in a raw form, you will love American Samoa. Just because a traditional tourism infrastructure isn't here, that doesn't mean that there aren't some other options that have popped up. For example, we have good friends that opened a Polynesian cultural center here in American Samoa called Le Faleo'o, which you can check out the videos that we made on the opening day of La Faleo'o.
Like I said, our National Park Service does a great job. There are many people who come specifically to this national park. It's the furthest one away from the mainland US. It's the only one south of the equator. Lots of really cool things about our national park here.
And there are a number of really amazing hotels here and great restaurants that try to cater to tourists that come. So you'll definitely find some support for tourism here, but it's nothing like any of the other top Pacific Island destinations that a lot of people look at. And for that reason, you may hate American Samoa. You may want to show up at an airport and have a wide selection of rental cars available to you right there, ready to go. There's not a lot of them, and you're gonna have to try to look around a little bit and ask a few questions to get directed to the right ones in the right places.
Now with rental cars, we have shared some contact information for some rental car companies in our transportation video. So if you are coming and you need something like that, make sure to check that one out too.
But you're also going to find a pretty major lack of resources that you would expect in most big cities too. I think there's a close correlation between that and the tourism infrastructure. Whereas most tourism destinations have kind of a larger city attached to them. So you're going to get things like world-class hospitals, major resources when it comes to airlines and different kinds of travel options. And you're pretty limited on all that stuff here. We don't have a major city anywhere here. We have a lot of small villages. That's something that may make you decide not to move to or to not even come visit American Samoa.
Our number one item on our list of reasons why you will either love or hate American Samoa is travel.
Now let me tell you one of the reasons you might actually love travel here in American Samoa is that you are not traveling the way that you probably ever have before. If you are going to be moving between islands, you're probably taking little puddle jumpers, which is equal parts terrifying and exciting and exhilarating. You might end up taking a little cargo ship between islands here, which is a unique and awesome experience in itself. Or you'll take a little Aliyah boat between islands, which are these little dual hull, really small fishing boats that really move in big waves, and it's just so exciting and fun to be able to experience these unique ways of traveling between islands and destinations.
When we've flown to Samoa or over to the Manua Islands, taken these small planes, both Holden and Hadley have had the experience of getting to be the co-pilot in the plane. And
this might end up being on the bad list, by the way, the reason why you don't want to be here.
They don't actually
unless
get
you
to
want an
control.
8-year-old flying your plane across the ocean.
They talk about it for, years to come.
But the crazy travel situation is, in fact, kind of a crazy travel situation, which a lot of people hate for good reason too. And that includes frustrations like the fact that there are, right now during COVID, there are really no flights going on, but even in the best of times, there are only a few flights between Honolulu and Pongo Pongo. Only a couple per week, only one airline that provides the flights, which meant it was very, very, very expensive. And that is a real problem. And it's enough to literally drive tourists to other destinations that might have come to American Samoa.
I know me personally, I love to travel, and so I have felt limited by my options. Travel between the islands is really very affordable. Travel between the two Samoas and out to the Manua Islands, you can get there really reasonably. But travel anywhere else can be so expensive that it has really limited the amount of trips that we have taken since we've been here. And like Nate said, for some people, the idea of flying on a small puddle jumper could be terrifying and could be an absolute deal breaker. And I get it, when we fly on those little planes, my heart definitely flutters more than when we're on one of the big jets.
Absolutely.
But I don't know, we're able to look past it, and it's part of the adventure, and it gets us to one of these other islands that we get to explore even more.
I think you maybe have a better understanding now, and you can stand in our shoes for a little while and see that American Samoa is really a place that might be perfect for you. But it might be a place that is kind of hell on earth for you too, if you are prone to breaking out heat rash and high humidity, and you have a fear of small planes,
a fear of little creepy crawlies.
This might be the worst place in the world for you. But if you're a kindred spirit like us, and you love the humidity, you thrive in it, and you seek out adventure through things like traveling in unique, unorthodox ways, like on cargo ships between islands, this might be the perfect place for you, at least to come visit and to experience the unique culture and the beauty. Then you may truly love coming and visiting American Samoa.
Or moving here. We're always ready to welcome new friends. We hope you've enjoyed watching this video and you've gotten some information that can help you in your decision to come or not to come. But it's getting dark. It's time for us to head in. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button and click the bell so you'll be notified of all of our future videos too.
Also, leave us a like if this is a helpful video for you, and leave us a comment below if we missed anything that you think you either love or hate about American Samoa that there's no middle ground on, and maybe we can make another one of these videos and include your suggestions. Until next time, Tofa Soifua.
Tofa Soifua.